a lady that is the co-founder of the Climate Ride. We'll explain what the Climate Ride is in just a second. So please make welcome Geraldine Carter. Thank you very much for being here. Don't be nervous.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Geraldine was the founder of the Climate Ride, and she will explain exactly what that is. But before we do that, reading her bio got me all kind of excited, because she has ridden or walked in almost every country that you could possibly think of. Let's go back to the Climate Ride. So you've been around the world and you've cycled and you've done a lot of things in the green world and sustainability world. Tell us how you came up with the idea of the Climate Ride.
I was traveling in China and I was going up a hill and I heard this truck coming up behind me and it was going very slowly, and finally after a couple of minutes it caught up to me. And then it was going almost the same speed as I was. And when I looked over at it, it was carrying huge chunks of coal. And I looked up and I could see a coal-fired power plant in front of me, and I knew that that truck was headed towards that power plant. And it was that moment that I said, this is ridiculous. There's a coal-fired power plant going online every week in China. Yeah. And there's an infrastructure that's being built here at a rate that I think most of us don't even comprehend. And if I don't do something now, then when? And so I got home and I knew that I had to do something. And so that was the impetus for starting to think about what skills do I have that I can use towards helping the environment. And so a friend and I were having a conversation, and it turns out that she was having the exact same thoughts because she had been traveling in China and had similar concerns.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so we just started talking about it, and we said to ourselves, you know, there are many bicycle rides that are happening for all these wonderful causes. Why isn't anyone doing a bicycle ride for climate change awareness and for actually in support of bicycles as transportation? And so we Googled, thinking, you know, it was such a brilliant idea, surely somebody had to be doing it. And it turned out nobody was. So we looked at each other and said, should we do this thing? And we both decided that it was a great idea and we were going to go for it.
So tell us a little bit about how it works. How do you raise the money? Where does the money go to? And where do you ride from? Well, I know that you ride from New York to DC. And you're doing one on the West Coast too, which goes from...
It goes down the northern coast of California, starting up by Eureka and then going down to San Francisco.
Okay. Doing the Climate Ride, we have how many cyclists?
We've got about 150 cyclists on each ride.
So we do 150 cyclists. How do we raise money and where does the money go to?
So Climate Riders, when they sign up, they pledge to raise $2,400. And most of them do that by a simple letter writing campaign where they talk about why reducing carbon emissions is so important for our generation. And they find that they get overwhelming support. There are tremendous numbers of people who understand the urgency of this issue and are really excited to support our riders en route from New York City to Washington, D.C.
So now they've raised all the money and it all goes into the coffers. Where do you spend the money?
So what we're doing this year, we're really excited about. We've chosen 9 beneficiary organizations that either work on fighting climate change or support bicycle advocacy. And so when Climate Riders sign up, they can actually pick the organization that they want to direct their funds to. So we have organizations like 350.org and One Sky, or bicycle organizations like Transportation Alternatives, San Francisco Bicycle Coalition, and so on.
Do you find... I ask this question to a lot of my guests, so you're probably not prepared to answer this question. But why is going green, or where you're at, raising money for various organizations, why does it become so political?
I think politicians know how to use this as an issue to drive votes. And it's terribly unfortunate that it has become a political issue because it doesn't need to be. This is a science-based issue. So when you're measuring the rate of melting of an ice sheet or ice cap, it's not about whether you're conservative or liberal. It's about the ice sheet melting at specific rates. And it's about the rate of extinction of polar bears, which we've just learned now before 2050. So I think it's a shame that politicians represent this as an issue to drive votes when we really have a very, very real problem that needs solving.
So the publicity that you get from Climate Ride and all the people that are associated with it, Do you think it's making a difference?
Absolutely. We've had numbers of climate riders who have said that this ride has actually changed their lives. Because of them have either turned their career in a more sustainable direction, or they've even completely changed jobs, or they've learned what they've learned on the ride into their house or into their work and change patterns there to make their lives more sustainable.
So, because when I talk and I give speeches around the country, I always stress that education is the only way we're going to get through this.
Right. Well, education and action. We're really going to need to take some serious action to prevent the worst of climate change, because we know now what's coming at us. And it's not very pretty, but we need to look past that and say, what can we do? Because there are many things that we can do, and it presents also tremendous opportunities to move to a clean energy system where we are no longer polluting, where we can breathe healthy, clean air in cities, and we can ride bikes and be healthier in many different ways. So that I really see, in spite of the challenges, I see tremendous opportunity here for us to create a better quality of life in many, many different ways.
Is it easier to do the climate ride? Do people get it on the East Coast versus the West Coast, or vice versa?
You know, it's different. I think the West Coast they get it a little bit more in terms of like the environment being connected to nature. I think there's more access to nature, so people, I think, automatically feel a stronger and deeper connection. But I think on the East Coast, people get the politics and grapple with the challenge of climate change and policies of it in a different way.
The climate ride, let me read this to you. The climate ride on the East Coast goes from New York to Washington, D.C., and it goes on May the 13th through the 17th. And the climate ride on the West Coast goes from Eureka to San Francisco, and that is on October the 2nd through the 6th. I personally would like to thank you very much for taking your time to do this interview. I hope you will learn something from this, and if you haven't, what's the website?
It's www.climateride.org.
You have just missed Geraldine Carter and the Climate Ride. Thank you very much. You've been on Byford on the Green with Richard Byford. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.